Open your mouth and scream aloud to your Maker. Pour out your spirit and soul in worshipping Him. Adebayo stood on the pulpit, declaring with all his strength. He sprayed around Holy Communion, known to his congregation, but it was another mixed content known only to him. He walked over to a woman and tapped her several times until she jerked up, raising her hands in the spirit. "Your name is Cynthia," he said, and she nodded in affirmation. "You have 3 children," he continued, and she nodded again in excitement. "In your compound, there is a big idol there." "Yes, sir," the woman screamed, thanking God for locating her. He told her the idol was the cause of her life's struggles and that her second daughter was its next victim. The congregation screamed, and the woman threw herself around, crying out loud. "Help me, Papa. Please help my family," she pleaded continuously. Adebayo took her hand and led her to the front of the congregation. He raised another prayer point, and they all began to pray. He touched the woman's forehead, and she fell to the floor under his anointing. Many miracles were performed that day. The blind could see, and the crippled walked. But there was something left untold and unknown to everyone about Prophet Adebayo. In his house was a hidden room that he always kept locked. Only he and his wife knew about it. The room was built underground beneath their house. One day, a woman came with her triplets to appreciate him for his support throughout her waiting on the Lord. He carried one of the babies while sitting at his office desk and smiled broadly. "Our God is good," he said happily. The woman thanked him again and then made a request he never expected. "I know this is very hard. But I have spoken with my husband about it, and we will both be glad if you accept." "Ha, this is a huge request. I have never done this in my life." "I know, sir, but your acceptance will be a blessing for us," the woman answered, kneeling before him. Adebayo was silent for a moment, then told the woman he would think about it or discuss it with his wife. The woman was overjoyed and later left his office. When he returned home in the evening and told his wife, she was ecstatic. Without hesitation, she told him to accept the woman's offer of giving them one of her babies. He sighed and told his wife to rethink the decision, but she was too excited, having longed for a child of her own. He shrugged and agreed, granting his wife's wish. Rebecca was thrilled, thanking and reminding him about it. 2 days later, Adebayo called for the triplets' mother, and she arrived with her baby. She handed over her baby girl to Adebayo and his wife, kneeling joyfully. She prayed and thanked them for lifting a burden from her life. "On one condition," Adebayo said. "What condition, sir?" the woman asked curiously. "Apart from my wife, you, and your husband, no other person should know about this. Or have you told anyone?" "No, sir," the woman replied. She assured him that she would never tell anyone and that it would remain a secret between them. 3 days later, the woman who had given up her daughter rushed into an emergency room, carrying her 2 remaining babies with tears streaming down her face. Her mother and husband looked distraught as medical staff took the babies from her. She looked shattered and weak, praying for a positive outcome. She couldn't explain what had happened or why they both suddenly stopped breathing. She remembered her prophet and, without anyone knowing, ran outside to buy a recharge card to call him while panting heavily. As soon as she finished recharging her phone, a madwoman jumped in front of her, startling her unexpectedly. "Why do you want to call him? Is he not the cause of your problem?" "I am a mother, and I know how you feel," the madwoman said, scratching her head and looking serious. Stella frowned, hissing and shouting at the madwoman to leave her alone. The madwoman refused, telling her to let Adebayo be so God could judge him. "I said go away." Stella screamed impatiently, throwing her shoe at the madwoman in annoyance. She dialed Adebayo's number continuously as she ran back to the hospital until he finally picked up. She quickly explained the situation, but Adebayo's response shocked her. "Leave them to die. They are not meant to be in the world." Stella's mouth dropped in shock. Before she could repeat what she had just heard, the doctor walked out with a straight face and announced the death of her babies. Her husband and mother-in-law gasped, and Stella felt herself slipping away from the devastating news. She collapsed, gripping her husband's shirt as her body went numb. She was rushed into the emergency room, but after several attempts to revive her, she died. Her family was thrown into mourning, wondering what could have led to such a tragic end. Meanwhile, Adebayo's ministry thrived, with tithes and offerings doubling in every service. His church name became globally recognized. Stella's child, who was with them, was announced as their adopted daughter. One day, Stella's husband visited Adebayo's office and poured out his grief. He told him he had tried every means to meet him after his wife and baby's demise, but Adebayo had always rejected his visitations. Adebayo feigned shock. "Jesus Christ," he exclaimed sadly. "The last time I saw her call was a month ago." But what could have happened? Stella's husband couldn't provide an answer other than blaming the devil and unknown enemies. Adebayo consoled him, handed him a large sum of money, and sent him away. "How about my daughter?" Stella's husband asked, and Adebayo's expression darkened. He told him never to ask about her again because the child now belonged to him. The man was speechless and shocked. He prostrated, apologizing if he had spoken out of turn, but Adebayo repeated himself angrily and threw him out like a beggar. From that day, Stella's husband went blind and mute, and the mystery behind his affliction remained unknown. Adebayo's congregation continued to grow. Every Sunday, he provided free food and education to select members. He was generous and welcoming, but eerie mysteries surrounded his ministry. Every 2 Sundays, 5 right-footed shoes would mysteriously disappear from members. These shoes were secretly taken by Adebayo. The owners searched in vain before eventually dismissing the loss as a simple misplacement. At home, Adebayo used them in rituals. At 2 a.m., in his hidden room, he performed incantations, and from a caved sculpture, blood would drip into a bowl. He rejoiced at the sight and carried on his secret rituals. Years later, Rachel, Stella's daughter, grew up to be a devout Christian, passionate about God's work. One night, after a church vigil, she noticed their hypocrisy. They never fasted or prayed at home. As she worshipped in her room, strange occurrences unfolded. The lights flickered, curtains swayed violently, and eerie voices filled the air. Undeterred, she continued praising, until Adebayo burst in, furious. "Stop singing," he thundered, slapping her. "Daddy, why did you hit me?" she asked, stunned. Dragging her to Rebecca, he raged, "I told you about this girl. She needs to stop." Rebecca scolded Rachel, urging her to obey. On Sunday, Rachel sat in the church, forbidden from the children's section. As Adebayo preached, she saw a mighty serpent behind him, whispering commands. She blinked, and it disappeared. Looking around, she saw fire on some members' heads while others emitted smoke. When a woman screamed and fell as Adebayo touched her, thick smoke poured from her. "God has answered her prayer," a woman nearby rejoiced, but Rachel knew better. As Holy Communion was served, she saw 6 demons dipping their tongues into the bowl. She wanted to warn the congregation but was ignored. Those with fire on their heads drank an empty cup, while those with smoke consumed the real content. She hesitated before drinking, tasting only water. After service, Rebecca took her to Adebayo's office. A beautiful woman entered, appearing normal but with a horned mark in the spirit. "Who are you?" Rachel blurted out. "Keep quiet." Rebecca snapped. Adebayo prayed for the woman, and she left, smirking at Rachel. At home, Rebecca dismissed Rachel's warnings about the church. Later, Adebayo secretly pursued the horned woman, growing obsessed. Soon, he despised Rebecca, neglecting her for his new mistress. One evening, Rachel found her in their living room. "Why are you here?" she asked. "Go to your room," the woman ordered. Rachel stood firm. "What have my parents done to you?" The woman laughed. "You should hate them, not defend them. They killed your mother, brother, and sister. Rachel froze in shock, but before she could speak, Adebayo entered, cutting their exchange short. That night, the woman attempted to kill Rachel, but her guardian angel intervened. Infuriated, she tormented Adebayo instead, inflicting spiritual wounds. He awoke screaming, his skin covered in sores. Rebecca screamed, calling Rachel for help. Seeing the woman striking Adebayo in the spirit, Rachel began praying, ignoring Rebecca's pleas to seek medical help. "This man ruined my family. Your mother's death was his doing," the woman shrieked. "Vengeance belongs to God," Rachel declared, continuing her prayers. After an intense battle, the woman vanished. Adebayo finally realized he was facing retribution. The next day, he lost his sanity, exposing his secrets. Rebecca, in a state of madness, confessed everything to Rachel, who wept in disbelief. News of Adebayo's crime spread, leading to his arrest. His church was demolished, and beneath the pulpit, authorities found a hidden casket. In his underground chamber, they discovered 15 graves, human remains, and imprisoned captives, who were freed and reunited with their families. Adebayo's ministry ended in disgrace. Rachel returned to her biological family and later became a prophetess, teaching people not to follow churches blindly. Matthew 7 verses 15 to 16 says, "Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Believe in God and be led by the Spirit," she preached. "Be like those with burning fire on their heads, for they are preserved from deception and tribulation."